Hey there, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the media coverage of Ron Paul and how it's shaping up. I've noticed two broad categories of response to him, and I don't think either is that unexpected. One is the right-wing response you're more likely to see on Fox News, and maybe the Wall Street Journal and other papers, which is that he's a long shot. He doesn't have much of a chance to win, but he's clearly more relevant now than he was 4 years ago. He's more popular. The debate has moved in his direction, and there's a certain acknowledgement, although perhaps a begrudging acknowledgement, that he was at the very least onto something, if not completely right. Although there have been a number of commentators who have been pretty much explicit, saying, "Hey, he called it." Like Cavuto has said as much, and actually some of the people on MSNBC, like Dylan Madigan, Joe Scarborough, a couple people have, admitted, "Hey, he clearly knew what he was talking about." But most of them point out, and I think correctly, that he is a long shot. There is some on the right who are still attacking him pretty viciously, especially the neocons. There was I think it was by Podhoretz, just an amazingly nonsensical article that he was an anti-Semite, basically devil who wants to kill Jewish babies or whatever. But yeah, there's not that much of that going on right now, because the neocons, they're not gone, they're not defeated by a long shot, but their political influence is less overt than it was under Bush. They still have it. They have a lot of influence on foreign policy still, but not in the popular culture so much. But on the other side, you have the left's treatment of him, and that is basically the quintessential cliched, emotive, nonsensical left attack on basically freedom. I've seen this in a number of different articles, and basically it runs: Ron Paul hates the poor, Ron Paul hates children, Ron Paul hates the sick, Ron Paul wants everybody to do drugs, which is interesting because usually the left is more open-minded when it comes to the drug war, but when Ron Paul is takes it as far as it can go, he's evil. And the demagoguery, as Ron Paul would have said in his book, is amazing. And you can see this in the Chris Matthews interviews of Rachel Maddow. One of the things that they're really keen on is this whole, he thinks that if you own property, you should be able to discriminate. And so basically, to them, that means that you are okay with racism, that you think that you actually endorse racism. And of course, this is silly. I don't care. I mean, I'd like to ask Maddow and Chris Matthews and anyone who thinks Ron Paul is out of line here, do you think someone should be allowed to marry who they want and discriminate if they don't want to marry a person of a certain race, if they marry within their own race, or discriminate on any other grounds? Is that horrible? I think people should be allowed to do that. Does that mean that I am endorsing racism? I don't think so, and the principle is exactly the same. If you don't want to marry somebody because of their skin color, you have a right to do that. And if you have a house and you don't want to rent a room out to somebody because of their skin color or any other criteria, it's your house, all right? That's your right. If you own a business and you don't want to serve a certain type of customer, or if you don't want to hire a certain type of worker, that's your business. And to say that someone has a right to that doesn't mean that you think that it's good to be racist. It just means that you respect their rights as an individual, and you expect the rights of other individuals to disassociate with them. So I wish this was a canard, but it seems to have a lot of credence with lots of people, and I don't know why, because it's just completely silly. The same power that allows the government to force you to Well, first of all, the government forcing you to hire blacks if you don't want to hire blacks is not going to end racism. Right? If there's a guy who doesn't want to hire a black person, and the government forces him to with affirmative action, he's not going to stop being racist because of that. In fact, he probably never will stop now. There's a chance at least that, you know, he might change on his own, but by forcing his hand, by coercing him, all you're doing is causing resentment. And you're attaching that resentment to race, and so you're making it basically impossible for it to ever go away. You're sweeping something under the rug where it will never be cleaned up, basically. You know, if I sweep garbage under the rug, it won't get mopped up ever. The other thing is the power to coerce in that way is the same power that prevents them from, or stops medical marijuana. It's the same power that stops you from having organic farming. You know, all you liberals who hate GMA, government modified food or whatever, the power to regulate your businesses and your properties, you know, to stop racism, is the same power they can use to put out of business every co-op in the country and to raid Amish people for selling raw milk and growing marijuana and whatever. So that's one thing. The other thing is they say, well, he must hate the poor and he must hate whatever because he's against Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Again, that's not his position. His position is basically that the government involvement in healthcare, let's just use healthcare as the example here. Government intervention in healthcare has raised the cost of healthcare and lowered the quality of healthcare. When the government spends billions of dollars acting as a third-party payer, like an insurance company, but with the government just diverting billions of dollars into the industry, on top of the fact that the government is regulating the industry and restricting the supply, as it does, it restricts the number of doctors, it restricts the number of medical schools, it restricts the number of hospitals, it restricts the number of providers of medical equipment, it restricts the tasks that people can perform, so nurses and others can't perform certain tasks, and only that. All that causes the price to go way up. And Ron Paul's position is that raise in cost is bad for society. It hurts everybody, and it hurts the people who are poorest the most. It hurts the poor the most. Now, he doesn't say he favors this because he likes corporations or he hates the poor. And yet that's the accusation. You hate the poor, you want people to go out and starve in the street. No, if you want to debate the issue, what you would say is, I think Ron Paul is wrong because I believe that government-enforced monopolies and oligopolies and billions of dollars in government spending and government regulation and restriction of the market and the creation of monopolies is good for the consumer and it's good for healthcare. That's what you need to be arguing. You need to say that, you know, the corporatist, pro-corporation regulations that we have are good for the consumer. And Ron Paul is just wrong for thinking that the government interference into the market is hurting anybody. It's to the benefit of all. That's a pretty silly argument, but that would be the one you'd have to make. But they don't even bother making that argument. They just skip right to, since he is against a program that ostensibly exists to help somebody, then he is against helping somebody. Of course, ignoring also that he is a doctor, that he did do charitable doctoring. You know, he would accept payments in kind. He would, you know, allow people to get medical care, and then just talk with them about how to pay back. Government regulations basically make that illegal or almost impossible, and they certainly disincentivize it. I mean, why haggle about price if Uncle Sam is just going to foot the bill, as he does now more than half the time? So this is extremely intellectually dishonest, and also, even if we accepted that Ron Paul was wrong and that government does actually help people on net, there would still be the issue that he's against the wars, and the wars are horrible killing slaughter machines. And like I don't see how you can reasonably say that, well, yes, Obama is a butcher, but it's okay because he favors Medicare. And Ron Paul, even though he's definitely against the wars more so than anybody, that's unacceptable because he wants to stop welfare. I don't know how that trade-off makes any sense. And to the credit of some, there have been some on the left who have reached this same conclusion. Well, they say they think Ron Paul is dead wrong about the economy and dead wrong about regulation and healthcare. It doesn't matter because he's spot on the war, and the war is more important than all that other stuff put together. And of course the Democrats, and especially Obama, and certainly the other Republicans, are completely wrong on this issue. In fact, they're hypocrites and liars on this issue because, you know, Obama was the so-called peace candidate who started bombing Pakistan his very first day in office. So it'll be interesting how it shapes up. I think that Ron Paul is getting more attention from the left this time because he does have better odds. I don't think they're good odds, but I think they're better than they were. His ideology, which isn't his so much as the one that he espouses, is getting a lot of traction and a lot of play now. And of course, it's kryptonite to what we would call liberalism, to the socialist collectivism that is so popular among much of the electorate. So I don't know, no prediction here, just that's how I see things shaping up right now.